Okay, happy spring, everyone. It is so good to be here again. I hope you are enjoying life and just enjoying the day wherever you are at. I'm very fortunate to be where I am. It's an absolutely beautiful spring day out here. So, hope everything is going well and that life is going good. And if you can't hear it and you can't see it, I have got goosebumps on my arms again. I've got it in my throat because I just have another awesome, amazing guest today. I'm truly blessed, and I have to pinch myself every time I get to interview someone. So today I've got with me Michelle Connery, and she is coming from me, and I hope I say this correctly, Newfoundland, which is the furthest northeast province of Canada there. A little bit of a tongue twister for me saying that word. But the reason I wanted to have Michelle on the show today, this is such an important topic. So I really hope you tune in today and really focus. All of us go through something called burnout, and all of us, not all of us, but a lot of us learn the hard way about prioritizing our mental health and our physical health first. And we get caught up in this work first mentality. And so I've got a guest with us today. Again, her name is Michelle, who has been through that journey, who knows what it's like, and is going to share her story with us and give us some tips and everything about how to begin prioritizing ourselves first, because I think that really is a huge key to this whole journey and this whole healthy living thing. So let me read you her bio real quick. Michelle Connery is the founder of Michelle Connery Coaching. She is a deadline-driven bean counter turned burnout recovery coach. Michelle helps ambitious professionals reignite their flame and go from burnout to balance. Michelle, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And I agree with you. Burnout is such an important topic to discuss because with the pandemic, it's been on the rise and more people are experiencing it. And a lot of people don't always know when they're in it. So I'm so happy to be here to talk about this. This is
not only that, they don't know when they're in it. They don't know how to get out of
that
it
too.
too.
That too.
And I've tried to stress so much, which is again why I'm so glad you're here today, Michelle, that we've got to prioritize ourselves first, but it's like people still aren't doing that. So take us back to the beginning, Michelle. I know you were in the corporate world. I think you said as an accountant.
Yeah.
And what started to happen there?
Well, I was in that world for probably close to 25 years if I go back to where I started. And my dad was an accountant. My aunt was an accountant. So it kind of runs in the blood.
Okay.
And when you start in the industry, you constantly hear, you got to put in the hours if you want to get ahead. You've got your month ends and your quarter ends, year ends, tax time, all of that, right? They're busy, really busy times. And the expectation is you put in the hours to get the things done. But the problem is the busy seasons start to stretch out and you keep saying, well, I'm going to take care of myself after my busy season's over. And that would come and go. And I still wasn't taking care of myself. When I was younger, I was like, oh, I can work late, I can bounce back. But as you start to get older, you're not sleeping as well as you used to. You don't bounce back as quickly as you used to when you have a long night, right?
You don't get up as quickly either. Yeah.
You don't get up as quickly, right? And so years of doing this really started to take its toll on me. And I mean, looking back, I can see all the signs now, right? As they say, hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
Like I think it was 2012. I was working so hard. I went to Disney to do the Disney Princess Half Marathon, and I got sick right before I left. But I still did the race because I'm paid for it. I'm gonna lungs. You don't need lungs.
Yeah, awesome. Good job.
But that started me out for 6 months of bronchitis. But I still didn't trigger that to being because I was unhealthy, right? It really wasn't until several years later in 2018 when I had my first big aha moment. I was in a really stressful, toxic environment, and we were on a project that was behind. And I was taking a call from home that day, a project call to let them know that they had underestimated the time it would take to build the finance requirements. And so I had the privilege of telling the project manager and the external consultants that, hey, we're going to be further off track than what you think, because it's going to take us some time. So it was a very heated discussion. And partway through the call, I could feel my heart start to race, and I felt like my blood pressure was elevated. And then I started feeling chest pains.
Oh.
But that still wasn't a warning sign for me to get off the call, right? I finished the call. And then I paced around my house because I just felt so agitated, and it was just like this heaviness in my chest. And I texted my best friend and told her what was going on. I was like 90% sure it was a panic attack, but there was 10% of me going, could this be something else? Right? Like, is this the one that you've been dreading? Like, is this it? Right?
Heart attack, maybe you're thinking?
Yeah, I was 48 years old. Like, is this a heart attack? And I said to her, I tried all this. I can't calm down. It's getting worse. Should I go to the hospital? And she's like, that's not the worst idea you've ever had. I'm like, okay. I got permission from my best friend. I can go to the hospital now. So
never mind the chest pains.
Never mind the chest pain. But the worst
what your friend says.
I know I drove myself there too. So I don't recommend that to anybody. Please don't drive yourself to the hospital if you're thinking you're having a heart attack. And yeah, I got there, the triage nurse, like I got whisked right into the back so quickly, like my head was almost spinning. They barely finished checking me in, and they started testing me for a heart attack, right? They were taking my blood pressure. They wouldn't tell me what it was. The ER doctor came in and said, are you on, blood pressure medications? I'm like, no, should I be? And he wouldn't say anything, right? Because he didn't want to stress me out.
Even more, yeah.
And it took about 8 hours because they test you and then you have to sit, and then they get the test results and then they retest you, right? Because it has to 4 hours or something between tests to make sure. And I remember like my GP had called in the interim because I called him before I went to the hospital, and he's like, what's going on? And I'm telling him all of this. He's like, okay, calm down. He's like, all right, I'm glad you're at the hospital. You're coming to see me on, this was a Wednesday, I think it was, you're going to come see me on Friday. You're not going back to work until we get all these test results back, right? And like whatever they tell you in the hospital, you're still coming to see me. Yeah. I'm like, okay. And thankfully it wasn't a heart attack that day, but it was the start of 3 months of stress leave. And it was the start of a whole pile of tests to make sure I didn't have any underlying heart conditions, right? And because when I got to the cardiologist 2 weeks later, I'm like, so they've never told me what the blood pressure was when I was in the ER or what was going on. He's like, yeah, it was 189 over 140. I'm like, holy shit.
That's high for anyone listening. That's high.
Yeah, that's really high, right? Yeah. Like not good. And he's like, yeah, that's not good. So yeah, 3 months off. So I had a lot of time to start thinking about, how did I get there? Right? What put me there? And, I knew I was under a lot of stress at work. So I started seeing a therapist at the same time. So she started helping me with setting boundaries, which I wasn't good at doing. Helped me identify that I was in a toxic work environment, and helping me deal with that, because I wasn't dealing with my stress, right? I was building up and building up and building up, and my anxiety and my panic was getting worse, which was not good. And I thought I was doing better. And then the pandemic hit. 2020, right? And we had a lot of changeovers at work as well. We had a new VP of finance come in, and that was just craziness. And it was year end. And I remember when they announced the lockdown, at the time I was still living in Ontario. And I just remember going, I can't deal with this. Like, this is too much. Like, I'm done, right? I was just like, and at that moment, I finally acknowledged the fact that I was in burnout mode. I was there before, but mentally, I didn't want to acknowledge it, right? I was still trying to push through. But again, looking back at the signs, I really didn't care.
Michelle, let me interrupt real quick, because that's such an important point, because we're almost trained to just go and to push through it. That's literally what our jobs tell us to do, what society tells us to do.
Exactly.
And what you're discovering is that's not necessarily the best thing for you personally, your physical and mental health. That's so important, but we don't always have to push through it. That doesn't have to be about that. So anyway, continue.
That's exactly it. Because that had been my mentality for over 20 years, was you just keep pushing through it. And when the deadlines are over, you might be able to take a breath and deal with it. But that was just like the straw that broke the camel's back. And I couldn't deal with it. And I remember having a call with my therapist. I'd already booked it. And I think I was crying the whole time she did all the speaking, because I was like, I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do. Because my brain had just had enough. I felt physically empty inside, right? Like I was mentally and physically exhausted. I was everything overwhelmed me, even the slightest things like doing laundry. Oh my God, I got to do laundry. Right. you kidding me? Like, I don't feel it.
Yeah, the
I
basics,
don't have any
laundry,
energy.
cooking, cleaning. Yeah.
All of that, right? And it was just really getting hard. And then dealing with all the crap at work and stuff, I just physically, I was just like, I can't take anymore. So again, I ended up taking some stress leave. My doctor put me on stress leave. I finally went on anti-anxiety medication because I needed
Oh,
something to help with my anxiety. It was insane.
that bad.
And then when that started to kick in and my head started to clear a bit, I was like, okay, I need to learn how to deal with this. What am I going to do? And that's when I started putting a plan together. Because for me, I realized I didn't want to work in a toxic work environment anymore. I'd done the corporate life. I had enough. You know, I'd sold my house the year before. I had some savings. My parents and my youngest sister were in Newfoundland. My sister had twins. They're 6 years old now. And I was missing out on so much, right? Being in Ontario while they were out here in Newfoundland. And I finally decided, like, I always knew I would come here, but I kept saying, oh, when I retire, when I blah, 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 you know, the same thing with burnout. When I retire, I won't be tired anymore because I'll have time to sleep. But no, that's wrong too. So yeah, I put a plan together. And I think that helped me get through because I really didn't leave my job until the end of July 2020. And I moved out here in August 2020. And I honestly thought, oh, I'll be fine. I have 2 weeks of quarantine and I'll be bouncing right back. And it's actually taken me a lot longer because I didn't realize how deep the burnout was, right? How much my body needed to recover.
That's
So,
important, real quick, for anyone
mhm.
listening too. Yeah, the burnout. I know exactly what you're talking about, Michelle, because I've been there. So the burnout runs deep. So how did you start to, I guess, dig out of this burnout hole, so to speak?
Yeah, well, with the help of my therapist, right? I mean, she's given me a lot of coping tools. But for me too, it was taking a break. I was in a financial
I'm
position where
still
I
here.
was
Yeah.
giving myself permission to take a break. Yeah, so giving myself permission to sleep when I needed to sleep, right? Because I always thought I had to push and just giving myself this grace that I would a best friend or a family member when they're not feeling well, right? Like it's okay. You will come out of this. Just focus on getting health. And healthy for me meant getting back to walking, like going out for walks every day because I live in such a beautiful province. We're surrounded by mountains and trees, and we've got a lake here. So, and it's a small town. So I don't have the hustle and bustle of commuting into Toronto every day anymore. So, just really taking that mental break and reconnecting with my family. And my niece and nephew also helped so much because what I realized is with all that hustle mentality that I was through all of those years, I lost myself and what I truly valued, my core values. And I forgot how to have fun and I forgot what joy was like.
Yeah. Oh,
Right?
such a huge part of it. Yeah. Let me go back
Huge
real
part.
quick just a second. You said you were kind of able to take a break, like a mental health
Mhm.
break or a stress break, and you did wind up quitting that job. For someone who is not able to like quit their job, they're supporting a family or something like that, and maybe don't have any savings, what would you say to that person?
Well, the first step is to finding somebody to talk to, right? And reaching out and acknowledging that you're in burnout, right? And you can't, as much as we all want to think we can do it alone, we can't. There's only so much you can by yourself, and having support and guidance of somebody who's gone through it before, somebody who's an expert in it is huge. And that's, I had a therapist. I also had um, a health and wellness coach that I work with as well. She doesn't specialize in it. She was starting to help me reestablish my healthy habits, even though I'm a health and wellness coach and I've got my nutrition certification and my personal trainer and all that. I still need that accountability and support to help me rebuild those healthy habits. And it's about starting off with figuring out what your core values are and are you living them in areas of your life, and chances are you're not, and that's what's causing your burnout. Like that's what's causing part of your burnout. So it's having somebody to talk about and help you figure that out, and then figure out how can I start making little changes so that I'm living more aligned with who I am and what I believe in and what my views are, right? Because for the longest time, I thought I had to be a workaholic till the day I retired. Well, that's a
Yeah.
learned belief, right? I don't have to be, right? I can be successful without killing myself. That one was a tough one to learn.
A lot of people, a lot of people think that. And real quick for anyone listening, you mentioned health coach. You are a health coach. Michelle can be reached at her Instagram site, instagram.com/Coach Michelle Connery. If you're interested in discussing this with Michelle more, or just reaching out to her and learning more. So you started to dig yourself out of it. What was in your mind that you started to make this shift that, hey, it's not all about work, that I can't prioritize work anymore. It's got to be more about me and my health, my physical health.
Yeah. I mean, I think the light bulb went on after the two health scares that I was the only one that could prioritize my health. Nobody else can do that for me. And if I didn't make a change, then that heart attack I was fearing, or some other illness was going to crop up. And I don't want to have that happen, right? Also coming out here and being with my niece and nephew, and at the time they were 4.5, and they reminded me of my why. Like, I want to be able to see them grow up. I want to be active in their life. I want to be able to go and, outside and play with them and go up and not be a burden on my family when I'm older. Right? So it was connecting with that why first. It's like, why is my health important? What am I doing this for? Right? Like, because I hadn't really thought of that before. And that was a big piece of it. And then starting to figure out, well, what steps do I want to start taking first? Because I don't recommend trying to do everything at once. So I need to focus on, because you're just
more burnout.
Right? Like, you're going to go back and you're not going to climb out. Like, that's the problem with burnout, is you don't feel like doing anything, but the best thing to do is to take a small step, because your brain needs to know that you can accomplish something, and that's going to help you start getting out of burnout. Right? So for me, it was, I had a supportive community around me, encouraging me, and being closer to my family again too. They're really my support system, and I hadn't realized how much I was missing them being so far away. So,
and I'm gonna jump in real quick, Michelle. I mean, I'm sorry, I keep chiming in here, but there's so much good stuff going on here. You're hitting on another key aspect that I think a lot of people all over the planet are dealing with, whether they're in Australia, Europe, South America, whatnot. We're told that, we obviously have to work to make a living, but when we work something that is not in line, as you mentioned, with our values, that starts to create, that's that like first step, but in the wrong direction almost. We step in the direction of stress, and then more stress and more stress until it becomes burned out. So again, I want to really emphasize this for anyone listening. Of course, we all need to work, but it's a matter of working. Even working hard is okay, but it's a matter of working hard and in a way that is lined up with your values, who you are, as you were saying, Michelle. And I think what I'm gathering now from your story is what started to happen with you. You started to kind of line up more with who you were and your values. And I see you're smiling now.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Like I said, I think my core values now are courage, joy, passion, which a lot of those things were missing in the majority of my work environments, right? Like, to be able to be compassionate to people. I was always told, like, I was always very empathetic and compassionate, and my employees would go the mile for me, right? And then I would have managers tell me, you're too nice, you're too sensitive, you're not hard enough on your employees, you're not that, you know what I mean? Like, completely opposite to what I was. And then when I would try to be that way, it would, like you said, it would cause stress within me, because it didn't feel right to me. It's like, well, why can't I be a good leader if I'm compassionate? Who says, like, and when I started challenging those, that even caused conflict, especially in an environment where a toxic environment where it was very much, if you're not on board with the leader and you're opposing anything she's saying, you're out the door. Right. It was do as I say, not as I do. And that caused even more stress, but that also helped me realize that to be healthy, I couldn't stay there. So for me, the answer was leaving and not going back into an accounting role. But for others, it could be just looking for a different opportunity, a different environment to be in, and understanding, like you said, your core values, and learning how to set boundaries, because a lot of times we don't know how to set boundaries either, right? Because I was type A, always
Go, go,
striving
go.
to do the
Yeah.
go, go, go. I had no
Go,
off
go,
switch.
yeah.
And people pleaser, and then you put me in a toxic work environment. Oh my God. You might as well have just written burnout on my forehead when it started.
And gosh, I know I've kind of been harping on this, Michelle, but I think your case is very typical for a lot of what's going on in the world. And I love the fact that you're smiling and you're happy now. You wrote something on your bio page, and something you briefly mentioned just a short while ago in this podcast. This idea about fun and learning to play again. What do you mean by that? Can you expand on that?
Well, I think when I would go back and think about my childhood, I was the oldest of three daughters, and my two sisters always said that I grew up quickly. Like I was like their second mom, right? And so I've always acted older than I was, and I forgot how to play. I forgot what I liked to do and what brought me joy, and especially when I started to get out into the work world, because I always felt that I had to work harder than everybody else, that I wasn't as smart as everybody else. So that also drove me and pushed me with my type A personality to do more and be more so that I could get further, because that was the goal, right? Have a great job, make a lot of money. And along the way, I forgot the important pieces of me and what I like to do and what brings me joy and what I like to do to have fun. And part of my recovery was reconnecting with those things. What did I like to do when I was a kid? What did I have fun doing? And at first it was really hard. I was like, oh my God,
Couldn't
I don't know.
remember.
I had to start asking, like, what did I do when I was a kid? What did I like to do? And I love to bake. And I mean, not to say that I didn't bake when I was working, but it became almost like a chore, right? I forgot how to have fun doing it. I was just doing it because, oh, well, it's Christmas time, I should bring some cookies into the office. Right? More obligation than fun. And my niece and nephew helped me with that, because before I moved out here, I would visit at least once or twice a year. And since they were about 2 or 3, my sister and I would start baking cookies with them. And I remember the first few times, I'm showing them how to decorate sugar cookies with sprinkles and icing. You can imagine a 3-year-old with icing and sprinkles.
Be a party. It'd be
Yeah,
fun.
I'm trying to do it perfectly, and they've got a big mess, and I'm trying to clean up after them. My sister's like, relax, they're 3 years old. Oh. And so since moving out here, the very first year I was here, we did a lot of baking. We iced so many cupcakes and cookies. And you know what? I got messy with them. I gave up trying to be perfect. You know what? Who cares? We're just eating them. It's really connecting with them, because seeing it through an eyes of 4.5-year-olds or 5-year-olds reminds you of what it's like to be in the moment, and what it's like to just enjoy what you're doing, putting the phone away. We would go out for walks, and my niece loves to pick flowers, even if they're dandelions. Oh, look how pretty it is, right? And it's just, even walking in nature, I go unplugged now, right? I'm listening to the birds. I'm watching the brook, the water coming down the mountains. The brooks are running really fast right now, playing with the dog. The dog loves to do snow angels with my niece and nephews, like all things I hadn't done in years. I forgot how much fun it can be to just go out and play in the snow, right? Usually I'm grumbling, oh God, it's snowing.
And that's another thing we tell ourselves as adults. Well, we're not supposed to play or have fun. I kind of went through a similar thing. I just, I like to play on kids' playground equipment, just because it's fun. You can swing and, all that stuff. So
yeah,
I think just so
I
many
never
of
did
us,
that.
yeah, I think so many of us forget that just to have fun. It's
And
really,
I think also too, it's part of our society and our culture, especially in North America, that as you grow up, you've got to be responsible, you got to have a good job, you got to work hard, you got to support your family, and you got this long list of to-dos, but nowhere in there is enjoy yourself, enjoy your family, have fun, take some downtime. In fact, if you tell people you had a lot of fun or that you slept well on the weekend, they look at you and like, well, what's wrong with you? Why are you so lazy?
You went home at 8 o'clock last night. I stayed till midnight or whatever. Yeah. Let me
Right. And
ask.
it's like a badge of honor that I stayed till midnight. Well, I had sleep. That's my badge of honor. I slept.
Yeah, yeah. It's we kind of have it backwards. But let me ask you
We
this,
do.
Michelle. I mean, I love having you here and seeing you smiling and laughing now is great. How, when you were in the corporate world and going down that path of work, 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 your fulfillment, your satisfaction with life, your happiness, how was it compared to how it is now when you started to prioritize happiness and fulfillment and
Yeah,
satisfaction?
I really, when I look back, I know I wasn't happy. Like you know, I remember after I got divorced, dove right into work and worked even harder because I was trying not to deal with that. And then I started dating again, and people that, what are your hobbies? I'm like,
I don't
work,
know. Work, yeah.
hobbies.
Sleep,
What?
eat.
What? And so, yeah, so I really didn't have much else. Like my identity was my career. I didn't have much else, right? And that was part of too what, you know, probably why my burnout was so deep as well, is because I didn't really have much else. Like I was starting to try and define myself in other areas, but it seemed like every time I would, start doing this, then something else would happen at work and they pull me back in, right? Like every time you tried to find some balance, they were pulling you back in, going, no, 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 you belong to us 24/7. So yeah, no, I'm definitely happier now. And the other thing I realized too is I chose accounting not because I loved it. I was never passionate about that profession. I was good, but it never brought the role of never brought me joy. And that's part of what I've learned from my burnout and working with my therapist, as well as the parts I loved about my job was helping people and coaching people and mentoring people. So it just made sense. And I always loved nutrition and health, which was kind of ironic because I didn't prioritize my own.
So do you work
But
now as a full-time health coach then?
yeah, yep. Trying to grow my business, trying to get out there and help as many people as I can. Because really, I don't want other people to go through what I went through. I know too many people are suffering, and I really want to help, people come back and like I said, reignite their flame, because I want them to feel passionate about what they're doing and passionate about their life and not just be defined by their careers. I want them to be able to experience a whole life, whatever that might entail for them.
Yeah. Again, Michelle Connery, Instagram.com/Coach Michelle Connery. Something
Mhm.
else you said, Michelle, kind of struck a chord with me. You said your identity, who you were, was kind of wrapped up in what your job was. And I think that's
Mhm.
very true for a lot of people. What would you say now, having been through this journey, what would you say now is your identity?
Well, my identity, I am first and foremost, I think I'm a fabulous aunt and daughter.
Awesome. Awesome.
And a great friend, right? Like I've reconnected with some of my friends that I'd lost contact with. Huge supporter of them as well as a passionate coach, and just, you know, somebody who is learning to love life and enjoying the little things, right? It's not about the money. Yeah, it's great to get paid. Don't get me wrong there.
Sure,
But
sure.
that's not what's driving me. It's about helping others and living my life the way I think I was meant to be, right? Like I was meant to, I think, go through this so that I could come out the other end and help people. So
Yeah. Again, anyone listening right now, this is a powerful story that Michelle is sharing with us. And wherever you are in the world or whatever you're doing, what you're feeling inside if you're feeling that burnout. And you may need to take a good hard look at your life, kind of like what you did, Michelle. It took a pretty serious health scare to really, take you to look at that. And I'm saying, take a look now. Hopefully, don't wait for that
mm,
health scare to come in.
yeah.
But you may have to make some hard choices.
Yep.
The secret, I think, if there's a secret underneath what kind of Michelle and I have been talking about here, it's this idea of identifying yourself with who you are and your values. And if that lines up with your job, which for me it does, and now Michelle it does in the health coaching world, but it didn't always for me either. But sacrificing fulfillment and happiness and joy and the fun of life, that's really what life is all about. I think one of the bigger purposes is this idea of fun and joy and fulfillment.
Mm.
And Michelle, as you discovered, we get this work, work, go, go, go type A that's all around. Even I'm not type A, but I get type A thrown at me all the time. Go, go,
Mm.
go, work, work, work,
Yeah.
oh, you're not working or whatever. But
Yeah.
I'm much more fulfilled now being in line with my calling. You're much more fulfilled. So if you're listening to this now, take a hard look at your life, and it may require you to make some difficult choices. And all I'm saying is don't wait for a health scare,
Rude.
if possible.
Mhm, mhm.
Ironically, you had yours, Michelle, and that led you down this path and here to be on the
Yeah.
podcast today. So I'm very grateful for that. Um, so, Michelle, let's look at that real quick, though. People who are in the big cities and go, go, go. Um, how can they find fun in some of that? How can they find fun or joy in their current situation to kind of maybe manage, I guess, some of this burnout?
Yeah. Well, it's all about figuring out what brings you joy. So,
Okay. Yeah.
and making sure that your schedule, like I know, like when you're busy, for me, I had to start scheduling downtime. Sounds crazy, right? You're
No,
scheduling
it doesn't
downtime.
actually.
But if to some people it does, but that was the only way for me to start learning to take it, right? And it's in my calendar, it's blocked off, it's my downtime. And doing something that would help me reconnect with me, or, help me turn my brain off of work and onto something else. So it could be, going out for a walk for me, because I love walking, or a bike ride, or sitting out in nature, if that's what you like. Or maybe for you, it's going to the gym. Doesn't matter. Like some form of exercise is always a great way to start, helping you reconnect, and helping improve your mental and your physical well-being. And I always say, pick an activity you enjoy, because if you don't enjoy the exercise, you're not going to do it. So find something, and maybe it's a group sport, like some people, now that we can go back and play team sports again, maybe it's basketball, maybe it's soccer, right? Like, what did you play sports as a kid?
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
should start playing it again as an adult.
Shoot some hoops for 5 minutes or something, or kick a
Yeah,
soccer ball.
assuming you don't have any, medical issues, stuff like that. But reconnect with that thing. And for me, that was like, oh yeah, I used to love to ride my bike. So I started pulling a bike and going for bike rides, right? I hate hills. We got lots of hills here. So but still, right? Like going with my niece and nephew, right? It's okay. But yes, maybe it's reading, right? It's whatever is going to give you your brain some mental rest from your work, and finding, maybe it's a hobby, maybe it's drawing, coloring, crocheting, knife throwing. I don't care. Like whatever brings you joy.
Knife throwing, yeah, axe throwing.
Knife throwing, axe throwing, whatever.
Yeah.
there's so many things to explore out there, right? And if like maybe it's a club, maybe it's there's different things and I think we get, like you said, we get so tied up in our work that we forget there's other things out there. Maybe it's reconnecting with your kids and your spouse, asking them what they want to do. Okay, guys, what are we going to do this weekend? What can we do to have some fun? Kids are great at figuring things out if you don't have any ideas.
And I think the whole point of this podcast is we have our priorities out of balance. We prioritize work versus the fun and the play and the joy and things like that. For anyone listening again, let me throw out a tip that has helped for me in my life, that is very much in line with what you're saying, Michelle. And everything Michelle has said on this podcast and the last 5 minutes, everything she says, the bottom line is she is prioritizing herself, and she is starting to see how that affects her life in terms of the joy and happiness. There is more joy. So one of the keys, I guess, for anyone listening, how do I get happier? People are always asking, what's the key to happiness? What's the success to happiness? Here's your answer. It's prioritize yourself.
Yes.
Prioritize yourself over work. Even if you're in a family situation, I say this too, prioritize yourself, because when you do, you'll be a better husband, you'll be a better wife, you'll be a better mom, you'll be a better dad. And so the one rule I have for me in my life, Michelle, and you can tell me what you think of this, is I have a rule every day that at least 2 times a day I have to do 15 minutes of wellness, at least a minimum of two, and then maybe as many as 5 or 6 times a day. Minimum 10 minutes, ideally 15 minutes. Sometimes it's even longer, 30 to 45 minutes. And I use the word wellness, and wellness could mean a whole ton of things. So, for example, for me, like you said, Michelle, a walk in the morning, because that's something I enjoy.
Mm.
Skipping rope are some things I do, jumping on a mini trampoline, riding my bike, stand-up paddleboarding. It could be reading, it could be meditating. Tai Chi, I love to do Tai Chi. So whatever you find fun in your life, set a
Mm.
rule for yourself at least 2 times a day, because of the, we're still in the go, go, go. A lot of
Yeah.
folks that are listening,
Yeah.
they know. Take that rule, at least a minimum 2 times a day, minimum of 10 minutes, to do some form of wellness for yourself.
I
Call
love
it
that.
self-care. Go get a massage from your spouse real quick, a shoulder rub, run up and down the stairs, go out in the yard, play with your kids, something. It doesn't have to be quote unquote exercise, going to a gym, just some form of
Yeah.
wellness.
No, I love that. And I mean, and wellness, and when we always think of exercise first, but I also like to remind people that wellness, anything that's going to help you mentally or physically. So
Yes, thank you,
it
thank
could,
you, that's a great way to say
yeah,
it.
right. It could even be getting up and going and making yourself a healthy snack instead of grabbing, something less healthy, getting some more water, or, taking 5 minutes to meditate, because the
Yep.
studies have shown how beneficial even just 5 minutes of meditation a day is for your mind and your body, which is something I've started to do. In the past, I would have said, oh, meditation, you're crazy. Like, I do that. But yeah, I start my day off most days with yoga first thing in
Okay,
the morning.
yoga.
Like, at least, like you said, I go 15 minutes. Right. Like, I flip through the channel, the YouTube channel that I like, that has yoga. And I'm like, okay, which one
Okay,
am I going to do today?
and you find
And
one.
that's how I start the day. And then I have breakfast, feed the cat, feed the dog, and then do a little bit of work, and then go out for a walk with my dad and the dog, and then come back. And yeah, so I've tried to put it through, like you said, put it throughout the day. And then in the evening, sometimes I'll do some meditation right before I go to bed, just to help me sleep better, right? Because studies have shown that that can help improve your sleep. So yeah, there's so many things out there. It's just we get tunnel vision and think that it has to be, well, if it has to be 60 minutes or it doesn't count. Well, no, it's like you said, little bits throughout the day can be super beneficial.
Yeah, it absolutely does not have to be one 60-minute shot. And the other thing, again, that Michelle has really been teaching us, kind of underneath the scenes, behind the scenes, so to speak, is this idea that it doesn't have to be 60 minutes. It can be a short spurt, 10 or 15 minutes. And one of the other tricks to prioritizing yourself, Michelle, you just did, you start off in the morning with a walk or something, or yoga. You said you get right
Mm-hmm.
into it. I do something very similar. I wake up and I stretch and I go outside, I get some fresh air, and I come in and I read for 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I've got my book or whatever, right? And that's how I start my day. So those that prioritize themselves have a plan in the morning, have a plan in the evening. You said you read something, and I do the same thing before I go to bed. I like to read a little bit too, just to kind of start my day and then end my day with something that's wellness related. Yeah, those are little
Exactly.
tips to prioritizing yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so many times we're, on our phones watching TV, doing all of that, and then trying to go right into bed, and our brains need that downtime, that break. So even shutting off your phone and the TV and all electronics at least 15 minutes before you want to go to bed, half an hour is better, but start small and turn them off, no distractions, get them out of the room if you can. If you can't, just
Yeah.
make sure that you do not disturb. You can't. I
Yeah.
know it's not always a practical, but yeah, and doing that, like, so whether it's meditation, reading, something just to help tell your body, now is the time to relax. Now we're getting into sleep mode, right? Because too many of us go, and then wonder why we can't just jump into bed and fall asleep. It's like, well, we haven't given ourselves that time to relax and unwind from the day.
Yeah. So Michelle, we're starting to run out of time here, but a couple more things I want to get to. What would the Michelle of you right now tell the Michelle of you in 2017, 16, 17, 18? What advice would you give yourself?
I would go back and give her a big hug and say, work is not everything.
Yeah.
If you don't take care of yourself, nothing else will matter. And you can do it, right? Because I tried and failed so many times throughout. Like, it's not that I completely ignored it, right? I would try and then I'd fall off a diet and then, oh, forget that. Or I'd start exercising and then I'd stop and whatever. But I would go back and give her a big hug and show her lots of empathy and tell her that she can do it. You got to start working on the mind first, right? You got to believe and really want to make that change, and that is what's going to give you the joy and the happiness that you've been searching for, right? Because I think I was
It is.
prioritizing
You
my
just heard it
career.
on my podcast, everyone. There it is.
Yeah, I would kept searching for that, but I didn't realize that that's what I was searching for. So I just kept going after the promotions and trying to, thinking that was what was going to make me happy, but it wasn't, right? It was the opposite.
You said it right there. We get caught up in the work, and we
Mhm.
think life is all about work, and that's a very powerful message that resonates all over the world. People think it's all about work, and as we've talked about, the identity that they have for themselves is associated with their work and their job. But again, you just heard it from Michelle. I've said it, the key to happiness, the secret to a more fulfilled life, if that's what you desire. I can't imagine anyone not desiring a more fulfilled, happier, more peaceful life. It's prioritizing yourself first and aligning up with your values and who you are. That's well, we just kind of summed up the whole podcast there in a sentence or two almost. But
Love
um,
it.
Michelle, you said a ton, lots of good stuff today. I'm so appreciative and grateful that you came on the podcast and could share your experience. Do you have anything else for the better that you haven't said already that you would like to share with our listeners?
I think I just want to reiterate that I really hope that my story can inspire other people to start taking a look at their health and wellness before it gets to a critical point. I don't want anybody else driving themselves to the emergency room
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
they're having a heart attack. That was not a pleasant experience. It was really, really, as much as I can laugh about it now, I wasn't laughing then. I was scared out of my mind. And
Yeah.
I just really want to empower people to take control of their health. It's not a sign of weakness if you do it. It's a
It's
sign of
not. It's
strength.
not. It is a sign of
It's a
strength.
sign that you love yourself and that you love your family and your friends as well. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you're never going to be able to take care of them or help
Yes.
them when they need it the most. So
We've got to get that message out there. Life is not just about work, it's about you. And then the second one is you've got to take care of yourself, prioritize yourself because, it happened to you, Michelle. I've dealt with clients. Don't wait for the heart attack to happen. Don't wait for the high blood pressure, the medications, all that. Two times a day, 10 to 15 minutes of wellness. Start there, even one time a day. Give yourself 10 minutes of wellness. And that wellness piece is something that you enjoy. Walking, reading,
yeah.
yoga. I mean, the list, it's an
Yeah.
infinite list, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
And I think something I learned recently is like make a list of those things as you think of them, because when you're in that stressful moment and you might not think of what can I do to help my calm down. So if you have these list of things that you enjoy, reduce your stress, you just pull it out and go, okay, today I think I'm going to try this, right? Because sometimes in the moment we forget what we can do that might help us. So that's another tip.
Great tips. Michelle, thank you so much for being here today. Super
Oh,
appreciate it. And an incredible story. And I'm so blessed, ironically, that happened to you because then you could come here and share it. But again, don't wait for the health issue if you're listening to this. Yeah, let's start before that happens.
yeah.
Again, Michelle, you can find her at Instagram.com/Coach Michelle Connery. As I always say, if you're listening now, it's truly a pleasure and an honor. And I hope you've gotten something out of this podcast. Again, Instagram.com/Coach Michelle Connery. Prioritize yourself first. Have fun. Align with your values. That would be the take home message for today. As I always say, this is Coach Brad. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, be well, be safe, be happy, eat ice cream. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.